Great. I'm here to have a bit of chat with Molman, more than anything to confront him on certain issues that have been a part of his reputation. A lot of people are aware of his actions, so really he's more than inclined to be able to answer it. Even in heated things, he'll try to give something a response, up to you to decide if there's anything to make it worthwhile for what he says. But that's obviously an audience type of response. Anything formulated in your mind is also an opinion on their mind. So let's go ahead with it.
Hey, yeah, I'm here to address a lot of things that have built up or been left that have mainly happened a while, quite actually quite a long time ago at this point, but they've been unaddressed and they've affected my reach and reputation for a long time now. And thank you for this opportunity. And again, this is the second time we've attempted this type of call, and as of now, you have my permission at this point in the video, like play some snippet if you even have the old recording of the previous attempt,
Mhm.
of just it going off rails, you know.
Mhm. Anyway, to go ahead with this, really everyone has like an opinion on you if they are aware of you. Now they can respect your work in case that they separate you from your content. Some people may just feel like knowing that in general it's like a little bit of a you show too much of your process. Maybe like it kind of shows, so they're really put off by it. It goes on a little too long. But in
Yeah,
general,
I'm aware of
oh yeah, go ahead.
that. I really, the thing is with my battles, I've always made them mainly for myself or to test myself with
Hmm.
what I can make. If I'm really interested in something, I definitely like to lean into the idea of going like extremely in depth for the genre. That is something I like to lean into actually.
Mm.
And I honestly don't care if someone finds that off putting. I mean, it's definitely the best possible reason, if you can think of it that way, for someone to be off put over my work.
Hmm. Okay.
The amount of detail I put into one piece, yeah.
I see. All right, yeah, and you know what? Some people can give you props and like you don't try to follow a trend or you just do what you want to. Okay, it's fine. Some people
Yeah.
do prefer when they operate that way. Now, and I am curious. This come up recently for me, and I'm like, I don't even know what it is. Is there a connection with Jigsaw and Tupac, which I believe was your most recent work?
Yes, there is a connection. They both died, but they kept releasing stuff even though they were dead.
Huh. Okay, I see that. I mean, to me, it's like there are much other posthumous artists who get their work also released after death, but maybe Tupac
I
is the
understand. I
biggest
mean,
example. Yeah, sure. Uh,
the thing is,
mhm,
a lot of my ideas that I've made into battles have been I conceived them years and years ago. This was one such example. Tupac was one of the first artists I heard of to have that reputation of like having a lot of posthumous releases. So I conceived that idea, I think, actually early on in my involvement with ERB. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's like lost the time now, but at one point I pretty sure I commented a highly highly upvoted comment on one of ERB's uploads of that idea years and years ago.
mhm. All right. Now to get into the real issues with how certain people
Of course.
perceive you. So you're quoted as being very transphobic, unapologetic on it, even having very right-wing views regarding social
Yeah,
issues. Anything.
I am very right wing anti trans. Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
and
and clearly I don't agree with it. It's
definitely,
like, even if I don't
of
agree,
course.
I'll like, concede. Yeah, I have to go ahead with this, and I don't like hearing it. But I can't really do anything on that, right? And you'll say that way, no way to persuade.
Mom,
But
I'm in the call right now. Mom, I can't talk right now. Hold on. Okay, bye. Sorry.
all
Anyway,
right, yeah, um,
yeah,
but
on trans issues,
mhm,
um, compared to some of the stuff, I'm pretty sure I probably definitely may have whatever. I may have said a lot of stuff in the past that I'm more relaxed about it since then. I've adopted a kind of like an intention of like trying to tolerate like transgender views so long as they can tolerate me just not buying into that. And of course, there are lots of people who are intolerant in that way. They can't
Mhm.
tolerate or they refuse to tolerate someone just not believing. I mean, I assume that we are all familiar with like the extremists at this point with pro trans extremism.
Yeah, just in the same way there is anti-trans extremism, was literally
Of
with
course, yeah.
J.K. Rowling,
I
Elon
try to
Musk.
be more, like center on one. I try to be more trying to see it both ways and trying to agree to disagree on that more so than I've been before.
Mhm.
So if there's something I said in the community before that was like really mean about that, I wouldn't say that again now
Mhm. Okay,
for how
good
I've grown now
stepping stone
since.
for learning. Definitely something I would say,
Right,
like,
yeah.
hey, at least you're not wanting to be openly harmful as you were. But I wouldn't want
Right,
that to
yeah.
be even like, something that if you understand some people are uncomfortable, like, hey, then we're just living that way to not try to interact. And, that's a big reason. But you are at least here stating your word with it, trying to make peace on it. Okay, at least now it's like we're not gonna like bother with hearing your thoughts on the issue because we know it, but we can move on, and I don't want to really even get into that. Really, it's more the matter of that big issue some people have with it is that you also were defending Frenzy before, as you know, pedophilic groomer,
I
which
mean, of
is
course, that's the main thing that caused the hostility with me to blow up.
mhm,
Of course, that was the big incident, and that was through I learned about that and got involved through the attacks on Bilo for covering his video, and of course the fact that someone else was attacked for covering the video
mhm,
of that person, a frenzy, someone who was like exposed for a
mhm,
sexual misconduct. The fact that someone was just attacked for featuring his work at all, that was the real issue.
mhm. Okay.
I have okay, going on record. I had I barely even knew who Frenzy. I barely recognized that name from the community. I had never seen a battle of his,
Mhm. Okay.
but
Well.
I that when I saw that kind because Bilo I was definitely into, and when I saw that kind of hostility towards him over just a mere connection with someone else, regardless of who that other person would be, that's my default reaction when I see someone being harassed like that or deplatformed or canceled like that.
Mhm. Well, in the
That's
case
my
of
default reaction to any kind of hostility on that scale.
and really Bilo is still respected and still around. It's not like he was canceled on it. Maybe some people were uncomfortable with it, and understandable. And in general, I think it was just something where I believe he actually hasn't kept up the series. It may have just been that, not that, like I don't know. I can't speak for him. Obviously, I don't
And
know much on it.
Bilo, he not only discontinued that series, he deleted that channel.
Hmm.
I think most of those videos of those reviews by him are lost media at this point.
Yeah. And for the case that you're also trying to make though, is that previously you were defending Bilo, but at the same time you also were saying like, well, Frenzy just got
Kind of,
out.
I'm
He was
saying
outed and he
we have
was,
a right
you said,
to
ostracized. Now you still think that like he doesn't deserve to actually come back because he did something that's a crime. So you're actually.
I don't care about him really.
Mhm,
I totally I'm okay you with any given person in the community judging someone like that however they will.
mhm,
The problem was that they were trying to take a judgment, a very strong judgment, and make it the official stance of the entire community
mhm.
and trying to punish other people in the community and extend the ostracism to them just for not abiding by their judgment.
Okay. I don't know much about the situation with if it played out that to that extent with Lilu. It's just, very much so. I can't agree with, like, they shouldn't allow Frenzy back because of the fact that he did what he did, and it's like, to me,
But
yeah, no one's
I
gonna be
wouldn't,
comfortable with it. You agree with that at least, right?
I agree with that. I wouldn't. I don't fault anyone else for like not wanting to deal with that kind of person anymore. I wouldn't probably work with anyone like that, even myself.
Mm-hmm. All right. Um, at least that's something in response to that can be acceptable. It's just you've also been claimed that you yourself have had these moments where you may have been seen as one. So hey, I just want to make that clear. Is it something that you're also willing to be adamant about, that you're not participating in anything that could be seen as legal, if just that's the case?
Of course, of course. I'm. The thing is, I've never made a sexual advance on another person. Period. I
Oh,
am
it's
celibate.
not just that. It's more like a fact of what you may have interest in. Someone had claimed the fact that you were like say in drawn art, in porn, or anything like that. Is
Yeah,
that true?
drawn art. Yes, I am into a lot of Rule 34.
Hmm.
I am a. I think the term is schediophile. Schediophile. I think it's an unofficial term, but it's a term I've used around a lot. I'm a schediophile,
Okay, but
definitely,
that
and
is that is that even appropriate? Like, would you say it's socially acceptable?
not socially acceptable to like go around talking about all the time if it's not relevant. But
Oh
I
yeah,
mean,
but that's
whatever
that's the
you
case for
want to look
anything
at
with
behind
that's
closed
sex
doors.
related. So that's what I'm trying to get at here.
What are you asking then?
Like, if in general you think that's something that most people would think, oh yeah, it's fine if you like that, or would you say maybe it's not so much that, if you're sure that it's a little more taboo, but in the case that like anyone sees it and you're very much seen as something beyond that, like, oh, that's very much something someone shouldn't be, would you say that?
I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely into a lot of like weird stuff with artwork, and it's strictly artwork, of course. Actually, I don't even get off on any regular basis to anything live action at all. Really,
Okay.
I mean, it's hard to overstate how much I am like strictly into animation and cartoon girls.
Okay,
But
but
as for
then.
someone finding that weird, I definitely am. I definitely don't think it's a thing to pick fights over or to go out of the way to judge someone over if they're not going out of the way to like, talk about it all the time.
Mhm. All right. You have a celebrity on your series, which is your half brother, Dave Navarro of Jane's Addiction fame, also previously with the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Correct. Yeah. I mean
So,
that
I.
Dave. I see him occasionally only, but I mean the thing is with Dave on my channel and him being in my videos, um, I think it was 2003 or four. We filmed that pilot for MTV of him visiting our family, and of course I had the tape of that, and of course it was not picked up, but it was completely unknown until I found it and uploaded it. And to this day, that continues to be like far and away the most viewed video on my channel. It's a blessing and a curse, that video, because I really wish more of the views that keep going to that old thing would go to my actual content.
Mhm. All right. Yeah, I see. Well, yeah, it's something some people are aware of. It's kind of like, very odd to know that. But in the case of you, bringing him on to be able to rap for a couple characters, I recall. How is it
Right?
that
Yeah.
you let him know? Like, he's aware of ERB, I'm sure, if he knows what your interests are with that. But how did
I'm
you let
pretty
him know
sure.
that
I mean,
um, yeah, that you're wanting to make this series that is like a tribute to them, and he got on board? So how did that go?
I'm pretty sure I didn't have to explain much about like ERB itself. I just said that I have this video that I'm making, and it would be cool if you could be in it.
Hmm.
That was just about it. It
Okay, so
wasn't a big deal.
so he
We're
actually
family,
doesn't
so it's
know about ERB themselves, right?
I don't believe so. I probably have at some point, but I can't recall any vivid memories of sharing ERB's videos with him.
Okay, yeah. So it's a chance he's in the community in some way without knowing about ERB. So that's a first if I heard it.
Yeah, that is a funny thing. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, interesting. You have any plans on actually bringing him back just in case, just to kind of give some attention? Like Dave's back. This is how he sounds now compared to recent battle or previous battles with him.
I'm not sure. The thing is, okay, I only plan four more battles to ever make past the one that's currently recorded. It's on SoundCloud. That's 56. I'm planning to stop at 60.
I see. All right. Like Tarantino,
I
you
have
have a number
very
to set.
specific plans. I'm not sure whether they would be in one of those. I'm not sure at this point.
Okay, interesting. Well, this is a Moleman exclusive then. You're admitting you are stopping right here at 60, so that's a even number. But hey, some
That's the
people
plan.
may actually have solace in knowing like you are planning to retire with it now. But it's fine. You know,
I mean,
if others appreciate your work, then yeah, sure, they can go back to it. More power to them.
the thing is, in the past several years, I know I've uploaded very few battles. I've put a lot of effort into each of them, but they've not been as regular as before, not even nearly so. And of course, part of that has been due to the alienation from the community. That's been very disheartening, and it's been very,
Yeah.
it's made me feel less motivated to keep working on these
I
things.
see, but you do understand the alienation on that. Like, there's big reason, and that's exactly what led you to
Of
this
course, and
occasion.
I'm hoping that as of this interview, um, that this will help my channel get healthier again
Mhm.
in that sense.
Yeah, I would
And
say
actually,
it's
it's
at
funny
least
because
something more like you wouldn't expect it. Like people will have their descriptions of you. I myself try to let people know if they're like you are something of a taboo subject. Like I try not to make it a whole thing because you are
yeah,
polarizing. You know, but if people
of
are
course,
aware of how you are and yet your channel is at what 20 something thousand subscribers, is that right?
29,000. I mean
Okay.
2,900 actually 2,900. Yeah, not
Oh,
thousand.
okay. Yeah,
I
I
wish.
messed up the number, but yeah, well, nearly 3,000. Hey, some people only get like less than 1,000 subs, and they just like call it quits after a few
Of
battles. So,
course.
um,
Even though I've noticed a lot of channels that have less subs than me get more views than me.
mhm,
And that's clearly a matter of having a more active community.
mhm. Oh yeah, I see.
Because my channel,
Mhm,
it's been around a very long time, and I know a lot of subscribers that are in that count are not active anymore, or
mhm.
they're like really old from like the YouTube hoop stuff I made
Okay, yeah, true.
ages ago, of
All
course.
right, yeah, and as I said here, you know what? I want to reiterate this fact is, you know, your YouTube hoops. I myself am really into YouTube hoops. Like that meme people know of, you know, the Sky does Ray, Sky views Ray. I think he's just saying the N word because he's like really like taken back. He's surprised by it. He's not like immediately going it's offensive. He's just like, you know, he says it. It's like as a surprise, and people find it comical. There's actually nothing wrong with like, you know, getting it into that type of humor, but and the fact that the person made it was a good editor, I'll just say that. I guess that's a really major reaction because you know you get you know, copycat memes with that where it was a trend for a bit, like you know the let us commence forth British, you know that meme. So yeah, it's like I can get YouTube hoops have their edgy humor like that. Now I don't think it's still like something to kind of normalize in the sense that like, you know, oh well, you know, I'm just gonna drop it here just because of the sake of doing it. Well, I didn't get enjoyment out of it, but it's more a matter of like I see comedy as like you have to have a really good setup, good focus on how you're doing it. I just feel it doesn't land. So it's like if it doesn't land, maybe just don't use it. And that's why I wanted to also advise. Like really, I don't think there's a reason for you to like keep using N word, hard R, other stuff. Maybe like, you know, you threw other slurs out there. I'm not gonna bother with knowing or watching. It's just a matter of, well,
Right.
I don't
This
believe
was
you're really like talented enough to be able to use it. As we know, South Park, the episode where Randy says it in Wheel of Fortune, and
Wheel
that's
of Fortune, yeah.
hilarious. Like it's completely played in the best way possible for execution, and I think they are able to like do it in like the taboo sense, but it's still like nothing where you can really like feel offended about it. I feel like you're not even close to it. That's what I'm just saying. Like I don't feel you have the right to really go about it that way and defend it. And it's like,
All right.
well, it wasn't even funny.
Yeah,
Come on.
there's quite a bit to say on that. For one, I grew up on the internet as treating the internet and especially YouTube poop content, like shocky, edgy humor content as a medium where you could say basically anything,
Hmm.
anything you wanted, as long as it's not, harassing someone, and
Hmm.
it's as long as it's clearly fictional.
Yeah, I get that.
And actually, some of my older YouTube poops used the N word in way more racist ways than like ever appeared in like say the more recent ones with based on the ERB YouTube poops, the
Hmm.
Old River series.
All right.
Because actually, if you'll notice in that series, whenever the N word is used, it's used as a generic insult or just a generic insult or expletive, not really racial. Like it's used as if it isn't a racial slur. I mean, at one point, Obama calls Trump that in my video, and um, and that's my current policy on my personal viewpoint on considering the word's use as a joke in a controlled
Hmm.
environment acceptable.
Hmm.
And but if you'll look at my some of my older videos from like early 2010s, I was way more unhinged with just saying horrible things
Hmm.
in the YouTube poops.
Okay. So even you yourself have your own limit of like going back to it and realizing, oh, this Mole Man video really is dated and terribly used of trying to make that a joke.
Yeah, I mean, there's one particular scene in a video of mine from ages and ages ago. No one complained about it at the time, but I mean, if I released that today, even in a YouTube poop, that would be a disaster. I
Hmm.
would never do that again today.
All
Like
right.
I'm referring to a video I made in 2010.
Okay, I see. I mean, yeah, sure. I'm not gonna watch
Where
that to really know or to get onto on it, but
yeah,
rather
no
I
need to.
still, like I said, I told you last time. It's like I watched it as soon as I heard that. I'm like, nope, this wasn't even a good way of using it to make me feel shock value. It's just like it's more like the sake of me being able to hear that from Moment. No, that turns me off. And really, I'll just still kind of give you shit for it because I feel like if someone's defending that use and they're like, okay, well, it's not even apologetic. I can like have my own opinion, and he just has his own opinion. Well, that's how it's gonna go, and that's really it.
I
Other
mean,
people
that
are
kind of
probably more
humor is
extreme in
never
that way.
it's never been for everyone.
Hmm. All right.
You were saying, are you referring to a video of mine you watched that turned you off because
Hmm.
of the N word? Would
Yeah,
that be
I
the one from last year with Charles Darwin?
That's exactly it. Yeah, I mentioned that, and yeah, I felt that was a waste of my time. I was just like, hey, I'm looking for YouTube poop with some actual comedy and not just like attempts at shock value that don't land. That's really it, and
Yeah,
I can still
that one
keep
was.
criticizing you for it just because of the case that didn't satisfy me, and like you'll just have your own opinion. You're not apologetic on it. Well, okay, I can kind of retort back if I have my own opinion whenever it's brought up, just in case of content
And
of your channel like that.
I've been wanting to say actually because like I mean the other people complained about that last time. It's funny because that particular video it is a actually a exceptionally tasteless video even by the standards of that series. But I mean, the way the N word is used in that video, I'm pretty sure it's one of the least offensive things Charles Darwin says in that video
Hmm.
compared to everything he says after that.
Oh, okay. After that, yeah. See, I clocked out at 1 minute and a half, and that's when I think I heard it
Right.
because
I
yeah.
mean, because past that, he goes on to say how he ate his own children, fatally
Mhm.
raped the Pope, wrote the Turner Diaries, and did 9/11.
Okay. Well, in case you haven't watched it out there for viewers, then yep, you're seeing what this kind of content we'll get into. But yeah, just be advised. So yeah, it's about the same, and really, I still don't have much of an interest to check out the channel, and that's the thing. Even if you will realize this is more meant for you to let people know, hey, yeah, I know I'm bugging up, but it's just my own thing. I even like just talked about it so that way I do at least have effort put in, like from your past or whatever. So yeah, this is still fine if you're wanting to kind of make it like, you're trying to have remorse on it, but you'll defend it. Okay, I don't have any other way to put around it. I'm not persuading you or anything. Obviously, that wasn't the point here. Really, more than anything, as I said before, I wanted to close it out to ask if there's anything you want to directly say as a just a general statement. That way, I know people may really like are very unlikely to give forgiveness or like want to check out what you've done, but rather just kind of make a closing statement here.
So you're saying we're almost already done because
Hmm.
I was planning on going into I've had a lot more than I was expecting to go into, especially
Hmm.
with how confrontational and specific things got last time we
Uh,
attempted this
all right.
call. So
Yeah, you can still give a couple more
I'm
topics. I can plan for that. Just let me know if what else was on your mind to have that discussed, and then
well, yeah,
we'll fit
about my
it out there.
history in the community. I mean, the my first real conflict with the community and how people have been systematically excluded from it. It came in 2018 when they were active with the fan-made rap battle database.
Hmm.
Because at that point, at that time in that period, another user documented my battles on that site, and the founder he specifically went out of his way to delete them because he hates me,
Hmm.
and that was just hurtful.
Oh, I see.
And I know later that site was it. I think him and the other people who are like-minded with him, they had that entire site, that entire database deleted, and I don't think a similar one has replaced it ever since. That's still
Hmm.
up. They deleted it just for the sake of not. They deleted everyone's content just for the sake of making sure they didn't have the content of the people they hated.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah, I see. Uh, and yeah, that's
I mean,
something that you can see whether or not it's kind of deleting 1984 type of free speech, whatever.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was totally like it was totally book burning. That was,
Hmm.
and the whole idea of a blacklist, official blacklist of the community.
Is no longer
I was
around.
always that is, I'm so thankful for that.
Hmm.
I know because I'm around 2021, I attempted to make a very long form video dissecting that history of my own and with the blacklist and just a indictment of all the abuse that was going on through the document. And I recorded, I think, a few hours worth of me ranting over that and like picking it apart. And of course, I never published any of that. I'm I'm not sure how things would have gone if I had finished that project and published it. But I mean, we're here now in a more calm and like safe environment, addressing those issues too. So I'm
Hmm.
glad we're doing this instead. This feels like it's kind of making good on that missed opportunity that I failed to make good on when it was relevant.
Hmm. Yeah, and in any case, even if this turns out to be a dud, you still have your own set time that you will at least cease really trying to make more. And I get that you have had your difficulties that kind of persuaded you to not really keep it going. But hey, some people will have their own mindset and kind of going about it. That's how the community is. You can't really, as you know, you can't just police it for everyone to think the same. So they'll just be scattered opinions, but I think more leaning still against you. It won't
I
really
mean,
do much.
another reason I don't make much stuff anymore is because ERB doesn't either.
That's true. That
I
that
mean,
now
I
there's
think
something
it
we can
seems
agree on for
curious.
once. ERB very much is lacking in what they are. Once in their heyday, they were really making stuff that you could get excited for. Nowadays, it's just once a year, and hey, will it be good? We don't even know that because it depends on their writing process. And some people say, hey, the Patreon really hasn't made it better for them in terms of writing. They used to be funnier. They used to have more wit or more of an edge to it, and lately, not getting much of it. Like some people were really praising Ford versus Marx, but it's also like before that was Laura versus Indy. Not many people were really into that at all.
Well, I mean, I don't think I have many criticisms of the battles themselves, few as they've been in the past few years. But I mean, it's just the lack of quantity.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from when I was into Patreon, that they've openly entertained and asked ideas for a lot of mashups that they've never gone through with.
Oh
It
yeah.
just feels like they were constantly teasing us from when I was in the Patreon. They
Mhm.
were constantly teasing great ideas that they never ended up making.
Okay. Yeah, and you were in the Patreon, but you were removed from it. Is that right?
I okay, I was removed from the Discord over my attempts to confront the people who were involved in cancel culture within the
Mhm.
community over the Discord
Mhm.
because the admin of the Discord insisted on not bringing that up there. But I had a few outbursts there over the fact that the people were that were that I was like in the same room with some of the people who I knew were coordinating this abuse, and I was being told to ignore it when I was in that community, even though it was a space where I could actually call them out, but I was not allowed to. So that's why I left the Patreon.
Mhm. Oh, I
But
see.
yeah, I was in there for a long time.
Mhm. Okay, guys, I did hear.
They
Yeah,
had
there
a
was
lot of
that
good
confrontation you
ideas.
had on that, but apparently it was just a matter of that. It's you say usual Molman shit. People get the idea because being honest, you will have that attitude and not realize how to control it, how you can be perceived by others because you're not realizing yourself. And it's nothing against you. It's just I know how you are and can't help it. But yeah, I'm just saying I can really know that you're like that.
It's a condition, yeah,
Mhm.
and that's
Okay.
my difficulty throughout my life.
And really, it's a matter of also. Do hate the kiwi farms having caused so much trouble. So
Of course, yeah,
I because I do not still think of you as a good person for me to want to defend you. At the same time, I wouldn't want to be invasive of someone's privacy. It's so terrible for community people
and of
to try
course,
to really get into that. So I'm just advising that is something that happened. I know some people are aware of
yeah,
it, but it's like a little too much because I really wouldn't want to care about your personal life. I do know enough of it because of your involvement in the community. So if there's something I know because of what you're doing in the community, then yeah, I'll just say that I can openly criticize it. I'm not gonna want to like figure out your address. That's like too much, and like people should not want to do that shit.
right. And the fact that I was so heavily traumatized by online harassers, cross website harassers, and stalkers, and flat out bullies for so long, that has informed the fact that I get so defensive when I see someone being harassed.
Mhm. Okay, yeah, that's understandable for if when someone wants to figure out why you can be like that. But in any case, some people
Yeah, that
may
that is
know
why
your
I reacted like that. Yeah.
yeah, and your opinions, yeah, they're definitely like people are opinionated, definitely a lot more polarizing than it's been in many years over a decade ago. But for something like that, okay, no one really should deserve it. It's just very creepy in general to kind of hear about it. So no one should try to dig stuff
Right.
up
Yeah.
in that way. Just more like if they dig up stuff where you said this years ago and you're not that different now. Well, yeah, then that's an opinion they can form on that because I also don't think you're like the content's better because like oh the N word usage was different. That's a stupid reasoning for me to want to like defend it. You know.
I mean, the okay. The reason I was banned from ERB Wiki in the first place was are you aware of this? The
Um,
reason I was banned from that wiki site was because bullies, cross website bullies, were openly threatening to start targeting the other users of the site if they didn't ban me.
mhm. All right. Yeah, that's very excessive and extreme, and I can get that. I don't hear much greatness coming from Wiki and you like how it was in its early years, but that's general community stuff. Like it's like I also hear that for other people who were involved in certain projects where they, a lot of strange stuff going down. It's because people didn't know better. They were very much teens who weren't unsupervised, and that's in general. Some people will still very much be a little, um, you know, creepy to work around with. So it's like if they here's the thing I will disagree with you on. Like I know there shouldn't be an official like blacklist as usual. Like everyone disowned that. I just don't think if someone's has a right to remove someone because of being a danger to someone. I think that also applies, and I think you're aware of this. Like those people were a danger to you. So what if someone is just banned because of the fact that they were a danger to someone else? Wouldn't you say that's also fine if they come to that conclusion?
If someone has a space of their own, they can ban anyone from their own space.
Mhm.
The
Okay.
problem was that they were banning people for having their own other spaces and allowing those people,
Okay, yeah, that can
or
be a very
policing
muddled
other
area.
people's
Now, I
spaces.
think lately it's come to terms that like some people are very much still feuding with others. They'll still like be against them for whatever reason, but then I see they still can share servers. Even like they're working with one team and still working with the other team that is against the other person. So yeah, it's not too
And
much
that
like
should be
that now. So
normalized. Yeah.
okay, it's fine.
So
So we
that's
come to
better
that.
to hear. Yeah.
Okay, good then.
Okay.
Yeah, anything else to kind of close it out to be able to like let people know what other thought you had just to finish it?
Yeah, I was saying. So yeah, I've been winding down my series with my involvement in this genre,
Mhm,
based on partially about how like the ERB itself seems to be running its course.
mhm,
But I know I had not worked on my ERB stuff in a while as of now. Actually, just the other day, I experienced a terrible sickness physically over the past weekend that had me in bed for like 2 whole days, and I feel that was an epiphanic experience. Is epiphanic the right word? You know what
mhm.
you know what I mean.
Yeah.
I had that kind of experience while bedridden, and I determined to start back up and make this next video of this battle that's recorded right now. And so in that regard, this interview has come at a very convenient and appropriate time to potentially mark, like potentially helping put some more energy into my efforts within this genre again. And actually, Mr. J, he now goes by,
Hmm.
formerly known as
Yes.
JMB. He released a battle yesterday that actually referenced a battle of mine from ages ago,
Hmm.
and that caught me off guard. And so these seem to be good signs for me to start putting more effort again
Hmm.
into work in this genre. Hopefully, things will go better, start in a better trajectory socially for me based on this. I don't know, maybe it won't do anything, but even so, it's good to have this off my chest and, on record and available up there somewhere for for anyone, whoever wants to hear it
Hmm.
or will consider it.
Okay, yeah, of course. And if you're talking about being referenced, yeah, that does happen often. It's not like it's a very uncommon thing. It does happen with older battles that they like certain lines that get used only in the ironic sense, like that those lines are funny to remember about, so they get used in other ones. So, but yeah, in your sense that you feel at least more alleviated with this, I was just doing it because we're willing to come to a kind of compromise and also. More than anything, I would say, yeah, you definitely have been, become a pariah, and yeah, I still don't think that you're like going to be able to get that satisfaction. I don't believe like if some people are thinking that like I won't bother with it or it doesn't deserve it. Okay, nothing else you can do. It's in the same way you can't be persuaded, they can't be persuaded.
I mean, there are people who just won't change. Yeah, and that's fine as long as the people who won't change don't try to force others to follow their
Hmm.
viewpoints.
Hmm. Yeah, and you know what? Just as a one final thing, because I like to very much bring it up with guests and all. Your thoughts on Guy Fawkes versus the Joker?
It's shit. Why do you ask that? I mean, that's what about it?
Oh,
It's
I
terrible.
really? Haha, interesting. Okay, because I was expecting something more positive. Just the fact that everyone thinks it's hilarious, ironically, like very much like yeah, it's not like
Oh,
we're
I mean,
laughing with the battle, we're laughing at it.
frankly, I mean, yeah, it's ironically you could, yeah, reference it. I mean, I know the wiki itself. They intend for a while they had in the background of the site they had Guy Fawkes and the Joker from ERB separate battles, but they made it look like they were in the same battle,
Hmm.
even though they weren't referencing that. And that's, I mean, that's a meme at this point.
Hmm. Okay, yeah, all right. But yeah, for sure, it's
Yeah, I mean,
yeah, it's become the most infamous for like very much that reason.
of course. By the way, in case it was not noticed, um, even the YouTube Hoop video with Charles Darwin and Ash Ketchum, the opening, the verse part, the first verses in that, the ones that actually rhyme, that was copied word for word from a old blog post on ERB Wiki. saying it was Charles Darwin versus Ash Ketchum, but it was just all those horrible things said and no references to the actual people. And
Okay,
I
I see.
copied that for the YouTube video. I mean, so the main conflicts that happened around they were at their they peaked. The main stuff happened. The main bad stuff happened with me in the community in 2019, and definitely handled a lot of that poorly. And I understand that now, and I definitely made mistakes. Obviously, the biggest one being telling someone to kill himself.
Mhm.
And I've since learned, in part from the backlash to that, that's never okay. And I've since never said that kind of thing to anyone else ever again. I mean, I've really learned from that. I can definitely apologize for resorting to that. And since then, I've never stopped. If someone's behavior is just completely unacceptable and I'm trying to confront it, I just keep trying to pressure them to correct themselves, to do better. I don't want someone to die. I want people to do better.
Yeah.
And another major mistake was using the word pedophobic, which, of course, it's an invalid term as I used it. It would literally mean fear or hatred of children themselves. And what I really meant to indict was, like, when people complain about, like, say, homophobia, that usually refers to potentially just any attitude that goes against the agendas and movements of gay people and associated sexual movements. And that's obvious. I mean, what I really meant to indict was just the extreme degree of it, especially for a person whose actions do not categorically certify him as an actual pedophile, and which I definitely would believe would not render him beyond redemption or rehabilitation. And I was definitely only using that to refer to an extreme degree of what I meant of what the word would imply.
Okay.
Anyway,
Well,
um,
all right. It was very verbose, but I do want to make sure because if you're wanting to clear that up, I will say, are you really condemning right now? Like you're saying that you are condemning anyone who would be pedophilic as Frenzy was.
I definitely condemn those. I definitely condemn those actions. I can fully understand expelling him from the community. What I am condemning was the degree of, especially with the active efforts to erase all support of him by anyone else, and punishing just anyone who did not completely condemn and disown him, and especially in regards to his existing content,
Okay.
because the attacks that I was initially confronting were over coverage of a very old battle.
Yes. Okay. Well, and also the other point is you made that you wanted to have someone kill themselves, and you said you are apologetic on it. Do you want to address that directly now to whoever it was personally?
I mean, the person was Atronox Aura, and I mean, I was very angry in that moment, and she was being very hostile. If I was back in that moment again, I would probably, like, similarly yell, but instead of saying kill yourself, I would say you need to stop this. You need to do better. You are being wrong. You are in the wrong, and it needs to stop. Like, just ordering, giving that, saying that as like an ultimatum, not threatening or advocating any kind of violence. So both in the 2019 phone conversation, which, by the way, I don't know, I'm not sure if I mentioned this before, it was illegally recorded. It was recorded and published after I was told and assured beforehand, as a necessary condition for me even being there with my voice, that it would not be recorded. I don't know who specifically recorded and or published it, but just saying that it was illegally recorded and published.
All right, I see.
In both that session and our first attempt at an interview here, other people, they spoke positively of the deletion of Frenzy's channel due to their condemnation of him and aggressive campaigning against him. And here's the thing. I'm thinking it. I mean, so obviously the decision to delete his channel was his ultimately. It was ultimately his decision. But the fact that the people who caused the circumstances that led to that with their attacks, they now after the fact they were glad that it happened. That I feel basically makes it as if they had. I mean, that shows them to be at fault for being responsible for the deletion of a channel. And I don't care who the person behind something is. No channel with legitimate content should be deleted like that. I mean, I very much value and prioritize media preservation
Mhm. All right.
and or being part of a genre of content that we all supposedly have such a passion for, being okay with mass deletion of a channel of content like that, it's very disturbing to me.
Oh yeah, I get that, and definitely leads to some lost media. I know there are some playlists that have the at least preservation of unlisted battles. So in that case, I do agree with you. If you know some people do want to have access to it, they can. I don't know if maybe there still is access to those battles if after
Yeah,
deleted.
I will always want there to be access somewhere to anything, basically, unless it's like like targeting someone directly, like
Mhm.
such as, for example, the illegally recorded phone session with me. Anyway.
Yeah, I understand that.
So my understanding has been since around 2019 that the main specific person responsible for codifying the so-called blacklist, he was often hostile to me for a long time, and what he eventually did that in part was a precursor to the main conflicts that I was in, he actively forced the deletion of the documentation of my content from that site, and of course, eventually deleted the whole site itself, which, to my understanding, was just for the sake of deleting everyone else on the blacklist who was mentioned there.
Mhm.
And that is just, I mean, I trust that you understand how just awful that is.
Mhm. Oh yes, I can see your point of view on that.
Of course, and what was my active project at the time the conflicts exploded was the ultimately unfinished Sonic versus Star Wars battle, which of course is known for being 48 minutes long. The audio was finished, not the video. And of course, the fact that the video wasn't finished, it was definitely not the only factor there, but it was in part because I was so disheartened with the community. I mean, like that kind of hostility from your fellow creators, it can really hurt your motivation to make your own projects within a genre. When the audio was initially created for that battle, two particular parts I ended up recasting after the fact due to hostility expressed by the people who did those parts initially. They like seemed to turn on me, turn against me and the product after it was finished. And one of the reasons that they brought up was the fact that Yobar was in it. And
Mhm.
he was also I don't want to say framed, but it was stigmatized as a supposed pedophile. Although my understanding is that he had no specific victim, unlike Frenzy. He wasn't specifically targeting anyone, but he apparently said some suspect creepy things, just general creepy things. But yeah, so what happened was this was the first time I was exposed to the blacklist document. One of the people, I won't name him, who was initially in the battle as a voice, he I asked him what was going on with the negative reception, and he mentioned that, and he linked that document to me, and he asked me to get rid of Yobar, and I responded with immediate hostility. I I have since wished what I wish I had said to him when he showed me that and asked me to get rid of Yobar was I should have said that I would agree to get rid of the undesirables from the audio track, and then later I would come back telling him that I did it, I got rid of the undesirables, and showed him the new version where Yobar was still in it and he was replaced.
Mhm.
In the same battle, the part of Snively Robotnik was initially cast to Freshie Canal, and he actually recorded a demo, but he later reneged on the part over so-called concerns about. He said he was concerned that if he was in my battle, Kiwi Farms would target him, which they have never done. I mean, at that point, the cyberbullying from that front was long since subsided. And the general implication that I got was that someone else in the community had actively gone out of their way to bring that up. I guess when he mentioned it in some sort of in some conversation privately, and they had pressured him to withdraw from my project. So yeah, I mean, I definitely had a very large overall feeling of people bad mouthing me and undermining me and my projects behind my back, which of course would later be confirmed.
Hmm.
In fact, the sense of being kept out of the loop while being campaigned against.
Oh, I see. All right. Well,
I
yeah,
think
I,
it
I
happened
get that.
around like 2020 or 2021. I was expelled from ERBs, the actual ERBs, Discord and Patreon, over what I admit were misguided efforts to confront some of the known abusers from the community who were also in their Discord server. I tried to bring up the issues in front of all the other people, and of course, the people managing the server, ERB, and their employees, they were trying to strictly be neutral, which to me felt like they were neglecting to use their voice and their power and their authority to help correct some of the unacceptable behavior of their own fans. I mean, I can't force them to do that. I couldn't force them to do that, and I was out of line with some of my attitude towards trying to.
Mhm.
I just feel it was very frustrating seeing them potentially being aware of some of the stuff that was happening and doing nothing, even if they were trying to be neutral, not siding with it, but they weren't taking action to help correct the problems either.
Okay. Well, if you understand my neutral point of view as well, like I can get because I know that they had also decided not to stay into that. Like, if they were told about a blacklist and they're not trying to make it an enforced thing, as you said, it's keeping neutral.
Of
But
course, yeah.
if you did come in to mostly put blame on people and like if you wanted to join, do a clean slate. I know some people would probably harass you on it, but you can bring it up that they wouldn't should not be doing it if you wanted to start over. I don't know how you handle it, but the thing is, if you said you were coming in guns blazing to say these people wronged me and for this reason you could take care of them or something, you can understand that can come off as authoritarian or demanding to kind of expect a use of power to your favor, even though it wasn't necessary to.
Right. I understand that, and I don't remember exactly what I said, but I definitely can imagine it was pretty poorly handled at the
Mhm.
time.
Yeah. Okay. So luckily you have come around to that, and you wouldn't
Right, I
lash out
understand.
at anyone
Yeah.
for anyone
I'm
if they
much
can.
I've matured a lot since then, in part because of the experiences I had.
All right. Good. And yeah, if as you had also mentioned, you are usually get banned from communities in general, just ERB stuff. But if you do show you're not wanting to keep anything going where you're against people, if they come towards you, perhaps you can bring that up as a manner of defense. But if you are wanting to have this as sort of a proof that you're not going to continue, like everything should start over and there should be no more bad blood between you and other people to kind of get it over, like water the bridge and all, then yeah, it's a matter of them accepting it, and if they do, you can feel better on it. But for the most part, I think you would just need to let them know, and that's all I can say about it. I know some people you should obviously know. There are some people who just straight up won't. They'll 100% still be against you just because of the past, and that's nothing on them. That's just how they are, and they're also just knowing you. They're not the type to really, just befriend someone who could be like you. They're just like they have their own group, and they don't feel that you have to be invited, and you can leave that as it is.
Of course, and I mean the main problem before had been the authoritarian imposition of those people's judgments, trying to demand that everyone else in the community hold the same judgments. and punishing other people for not holding those judgments or even going against it. I mean, some other collaborators of mine, or artists and voices, including Frosmig and YDG on, they certain attempts of mine to collaborate with them or collaborations that we actually had, they were met with hostility and threats and so-called warnings from other members of the community threatening to punish them for working with me.
Mhm.
That's no longer happening. I have since worked with them both again without issue, but that was happening
Mhm.
for a long time,
Yeah, and at
and
most,
that's no
I
longer
can
happening.
I can understand if people may be disappointed on the decision, but it's up to them, and they shouldn't have so much of a strong opinion as if they're a parental figure or something. They know what they get
Right.
into,
I
and
mean, that's definitely how it was like
mhm.
before.
Okay, yeah,
So on YouTube, several other rap battle channels that I've attempted to comment on throughout the past few years, I found my comments that I wasn't able to comment or they were hidden because I was blocked by those channels, several of which I had never even interacted with at all before. So multiple channels had, based on what people had said or told them to do on other websites, blocked my channel from commenting on theirs without me ever having actually commented on theirs before. And all the comments that I tried to make at those times that I found I couldn't, they were blocked. Oh, they were all innocent comments, or they were all strictly positive or just clever or funny comments, not trying to bring up drama. And a lot of comments of mine have been lost, and conversations that could have been had have been lost or prevented from happening because of that.
mhm.
For the
Okay.
longest time, I was unable to, or I had no rap battle type Discord server that I could be a part of that I knew of. Even when I asked other people, such as Mr. J, about any such servers, he didn't have any to recommend me. He apparently isn't in any anymore. But as of just this past week, actually, that has changed with Chaotic Rap Battle server. And when I entered there were some people questioning it. Someone was suggesting that he might want to kick me because I've been in trouble before, but that situation was successfully defused, and other people met me positively in that server.
Oh,
So
I see.
that is actually very pleasing to have happen, and it's very cathartic even to be accepted in the community like this before, and to see even someone who was against me before being willing to let go at this point.
Okay. Yeah, of course. I mean, if some people could be cautious, they could, decide maybe there isn't as much of a change as, they don't know you as, anyone else who would want to interact. Like people who do interact with you, at least it's not like they're spreading to other people like, hey, Molman's a different person now. It's not until now that you're trying to make an effort that they're gonna realize that. So yeah, if this was, they managed to accept you, and you're obviously promising to not do anything against them, that you're not gonna be for whatever reason any bigoted beliefs, any types of harassment, as very much looked down upon. So if you're gonna keep that up, that's at least one thing you have going for right now.
I understand it's always a slow process to recovery and redemption, and like to undo damage or recover from damage that has happened in the past, stuff. But I do feel that I am making progress at this point.
Mm. Okay, it's good then. Um, and is there anything else that you'd also like to address as we're going with the more positive note?
Yeah, about my own stuff actually. So the thing with Massive Rap Battles is it at the start it was very much what I've since learned the term for as outsider art, because when I first started making battles, I had really no idea what I was doing. I had not looked up any, I had not looked up any training of any sort for how to actually write rap, how to, even go about recording, which was why my audio was so horrendous at first for the longest time. I was actually, even for the technology that I did have, I wasn't making the most of it. I wasn't optimizing the output or the input well enough, which shows or is audible in the early battles. The first battle I ever made, Gwen versus Daria, was very much the impetus. I'm not sure if that's the right word, but the concept was very much it was based less so on my interest in ERB, actually more so in my obsession at the time with total drama. Because I mean I think most of the record of it because my old DeviantArt account is gone now and all the comments are gone. But for a long time, I think from like 2010 to 2013, I was very invested in that fandom, and
Mhm.
especially that character and her relationships.
Which one
Um,
again?
when
Oh, Gwen. Yes. All right. I see.
Yeah, I mean some of the events in World Tour were some of the first times I ever felt really upset over fictional characters and events happening or progressing in a way that I didn't like. Because before I had usually taken all fiction that I consumed for granted, and I wasn't emotionally affected. But that I mean, it was because it coincided with my just coming of age and maturing and learning to read more into like emotionally with characters and storylines. But um, that those storylines in that season particularly were a big thing for me in my growth and my the way I look at media.
Hmm.
Kind of set a standard for me with my in my subjective experience. And so yeah, and also a lot of the early cast members, the early voices in Molemanninethousand Epic Rap Battles, they were either A, family of mine, or B, they were people from the place I lived at the time, which was a community where they hosted a college internship program. So a college internship program for neurodiverse people, like
Hmm.
people with autism mainly.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the people were either employees there or other subjects there. It wasn't for a very long time that I started regularly hiring voice work, actual voice actors from online.
Hmm. I see.
Um, I know that my voice. I feel my voice straining, but I'm gonna keep doing it anyway. Um, So, given the increasing irregularity of my battle releases, which has been in part due to ERB's own irregularity as of the past several years, but I mean, my videos have been getting much less views. The more recent ones, even like I've been getting less views than I used to by far. My most recent released one, Cynthia versus Millennia, which released subsequent to our first successfully recorded interview session here. Um, that has gotten drastically few views. But what hasn't gotten few views at all, which is weird because my most viewed video on my channel by far consistently for years now has been the MTV pilot featuring Dave Navarro visiting me and our family. And as of like the past week or so, that has exploded again due to, I mean, I'm not sure if you saw this in the news because I saw it in the news. I actually saw this in the news, like on a major news site. That was how I learned of it. The night after, the morning after it happened, at a Jane's Addiction concert, the singer went crazy and physically struck Dave.
Oh.
And so that has actually caused a resurgence of attention for my upload featuring him. And in the past 48 hours, that video has received approximately 3,000 views. And the second most viewed video within that period, Cynthia versus Millennia, has gotten approximately 20. So that is more than a 99% decrease from my most viewed video currently to my second most viewed, with the most viewed being something that I didn't even really make.
Mhm. Yeah, interesting.
I, it's a source of self-deprecating humor is how I view it right in this time. Another factor that's contributed to the lapses in my releases has been my commitment to making everything I hint at. If I hint at something in a released battle, my rule is that I have to make it, even if I start making it and feel it's not working. That was the reason behind um, At the end of Scott Pilgrim versus the World, which released in 2018, I mean, that is my battle of Scott Pilgrim versus the World. It showed silhouettes of upcoming rappers in my series, one of which was Bigfoot. And the idea was Littlefinger from Game of Thrones versus Bigfoot. And when I started going to write that, I realized it just wasn't working. And that contributed to me not making a battle for over a year. What I ultimately made was the MERB news battle, which was mainly random people, but the first two were Littlefinger and VV Argos from the Secret Saturdays, who is a Yeti and therefore technically in the Bigfoot family. So that's how I ended up satisfying that promise without actually making the battle as I originally intended it to be.
Okay, I see. That's interesting. You have to know if there's anyone who's into the lore of it. But yeah, it sounds like you actually do have a, quite a good plan for you at least ahead, and working on bettering yourself.
I
That's
mean, several of the battles I've made had been planned.
mhm.
I got the idea and decided I'm gonna make this at some point. Ideas had come to me like that years beforehand. If I recall correctly, Tupac versus Jigsaw was actually one of the first battles or one of the first matchups they ever came up with. I think before I even started making them at all, the idea had occurred to me as like that would be funny as an ERB. If I recall correctly, that's the oldest or the earliest matchup within my mind that I've ever actually gotten around to making. Another one was that came out about after a very long time was Pink Floyd versus Kinchy Hong. Actually, if you watched that battle, especially at the time, you might have thought that the initial matchup was just an excuse to get Donald Trump in there as a third party.
Well,
But
no, it's because
actually,
of the
no, that
wall.
was yeah. But actually, no, that the idea came to me before he even started running. And if I recall, at the time I started writing it and wrote the first lines to come about, I did not expect him to win and therefore wasn't planning on including him. But of course, with what happened, I mean, that was history. I had to capitalize on it.
Yeah, I see.
Yeah. So, yeah. Another thing about my battles, I've been chronically embarrassed over a lot of this stuff in the early battles. Not just the quality, the poor quality, but just even some of the lyrics themselves. I found so cringe. I felt almost at times cripplingly embarrassed just thinking about them at times. And that sense with a lot of the bat with a lot of the characters and franchises I use so poorly. Recurring theme. If you look at some of the battles in my current era, long drawn out as that era has been at this point, but several characters have been reused or otherwise franchises reused, and that has been intentional. The pattern of that has been intentional. Where like that are reusing a character that I did poorly before, or just another character or characters from a franchise that I felt I wasted at the first time.
Okay,
I used
yeah, I
to
see.
remake battles. I called them remasters, but they were really just re-recordings. I used to do that. I've I've since for the same reasons I used to do that, for the same reasons I've more recently reused characters or franchises as subjects of new battles.
Oh yeah, I see.
So I think that at this point, that's about everything on my list. So thank you again, once again, for being willing to hear all this out and trusting that you will compile it well. And I guess Godspeed, sir.
Certainly.